Grace, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast here today. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Jared.
I'm excited to chat. We always run into each other at an event, whether it's the main event or the really cool side events that you always throw at many of these conferences. What is it usually you call it? Isn't it gin and juice or fin and juice?
Yes, it's our fintech take on gin and juice, fin and
Yes.
juice. It's become for those who know, a common name, if you will, associated with our gatherings, where we like to really just bring clients as well as investors from the VC space, from the PE space, and other influencers that are relevant to make sure that, there's these really large events that happen on a regular basis in the fintech ecosystem. And we try to create a more intimate setting where people can actually have the conversations that matter too. They've been something we've been doing for, gosh, I want to say 6 or 7 years at this point in various different levels and stages, and not always called fin and juice. We had a little bourbon and bites moment where we went with that one too. But it's a way that we like to connect, and always love to see you at those too.
Well, I I'm really excited to have you on, Grace, because we do this from time to time. A lot of the times we'll have like fintech founders on, but we will have comms and marketing leadership on as well every so often because I think you have really a unique take on you deal with a lot of different clients and what they're doing in the space and kind of have a I'm not going to call it a crystal ball, but like a good outlook on kind of what you're hearing from your clients and where kind of fintech is going. Before we dive into any questions and in our full conversation today, it is your first time on the show. I would love if you could tell the audience a little bit about yourself and Caliber, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. Grace Keith Rodriguez, as I'm sure you can see there. I am the CEO of Caliber Corporate Advisors. Yes, it's a bit of a mouthful. We typically call ourselves just Caliber, but there is a reason that advisors is in our name, because what we really focus on as far as our value prop to our clients, it's being that partner to help them through milestones and moments between those milestones from every facet of the communications and marketing journey. A lot of times that's in a moment of funding, a lot of times it's in a moment of or somewhere in the middle. And what we really do is help clients, especially in the fintech and broader financial services space, understand the media landscape, what it looks like now, what it looks like tomorrow. Sometimes it shifts quickly in 24 hours, and how we can really break through a lot of that noise that's out there right now to create a compelling narrative and help them shape their story so that it's not told for them, but told by them.
Like it. I like that you did put advisors in the name. I think far too often, we haven't talked about this, but I speak a lot about this with a lot of founders. In your space, there are a lot of companies, but there are very few like yours that do take that advisory approach, right? I feel like too, every pitch, by the way, that I get from your team is relevant. It's not spammy. And there's usually always a personal touch. Like we think, it's not just I don't know. Sometimes the wrong name is even pitched to me, like, "Hey, Jessica, you should check this out." The little things, right? So,
Sure is. Yeah. No, unfortunately, we have heard many of those stories. I would like to believe that I don't know anyone who would do that, but it's great to hear that from you. We really do lean intentionally pretty far in on the training and learning development side for our team. Because at the end of the day, our clients want team members on the Caliber side who feel very much a part of what they do. So in the fintech space, there's, gosh, I don't even know what number to use here, 1,000 acronyms, if not more. And we really emphasize the importance of our team understanding those acronyms, right? We want to be able to get on a call with a brand new fintech client, whether it's in capital markets or in lending or in banking or in BaaS or whatever we're supposed to call that now. We want them to understand the space. So when we're talking to journalists, we need to be able to be clear about what's going on, not just contribute to the noise. I personally feel our responsibility is to break through that and not add to the noise. It's something that our team is very passionate about, and I'm glad to hear that that comes through, because that's the goal, is that it comes through to folks like you and other great journalists out there.
when you look at obviously you have a lot of clients, and I don't want you to pick any favorites, and I know you wouldn't do that anyways, but I am curious, like, is there a hot area that I can never say that word, by the way? It's always hot. I don't know why. I'm from Boston originally, and I can't say that word. So, is there a very warm area that you're really liking in the fintech space today? And if so, what is it about that particular category, subcategory that excites you right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that a lot of the spaces that we operate in, frankly, we have for a good bit. So a lot of what we see as hot is coming up as far as what's going to be hot and talked about in the media, which is kind of the purpose. That's why we're here. We're hearing a lot more about private markets. So on the capital market side, right, there's always been these established public markets, but more about private and everything alternative, all kinds of alts, everything you can imagine. A lot more emphasis on that, even from some of our traditional financial services clients that we've worked with for many, many years. They're asking us, what are you seeing in the private market space, right? So that's somewhere that we've seen I would say continue to be a warm area, if we're using that term. Another area is just continued lending, banking, anything in that space, whether it's from deposits to credit. We are noticing innovation beyond just AI, but yes, of course, right? The elephant in the room. There's a lot of that too. Um, Really ways that clients, especially on the tech side, so beyond the traditional financial services clients, the fintech clients, ways that they're creating a different customer experience or ways that they're bringing varied data points together that couldn't be done before. A lot of the clients that we work with, frankly, when we ask their competitive set, other than the first answer being we don't compete against anyone because everyone's so unique in what they're focused on, right? The second answer is I would say 7 times out of 10 Excel spreadsheets. So that's kind of what we're up against is, the regular rhythm, the cadence that people are used to. What does that look like, right? And a lot of it is Excel spreadsheets, and a lot of the clients that we work with in fintech are taking that and making it more approachable, making it clearer, making it more understandable, and analyzing it to a degree that wasn't previously possible. So that's a lot of what we're seeing.
One a couple of things that really excite me just about fintech in general is uh, how other industries and how they're using AI. Fintech kind of hits upon it doesn't matter the industry, right? So I'm really excited to start to see, all right, for the last year or two, we keep talking about all things AI, like agentic workflows, like agent, whatever you want to call it. And it will be really interesting to see the companies that already exist today, the products that they come out with and enhance to be able to kind of adapt to this new world that we're seeing with AI. But then also a lot of these newer companies, like I'm super excited when you start to see these self-driving cars now, for instance. I'm excited to see what will end up happening with like we're gonna need really good payment process, like payment structure. It comes to it was easy when a human was involved in all of these different payments. How is that going to change? And then even it is crazy, right? There's always a trickle down effect. The gates and everything is going to have to be set up for this new world of fintech. Driven by what AI is doing across all the industries. So I'm really excited just to see what companies end up coming out and how they end up solving these issues.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be this isn't a crystal ball. This is just if you've lived through enough of this, you kind of know the answer. Although I would love that crystal ball that you talked about. So maybe someday. Magic 8 ball. I don't know if that ages me. I think it's going to be a combination of new entrants, but also a lot of those kind of stayed steady companies that have been in this space looking really closely at the up and comers, and I think we're going to see even more M&A in that space. So more of these acquisitions of maybe an AI that makes sense when you hear about the concept, but maybe isn't that well known. I think we're going to continue to see a lot of that. So I think it's going to be a combination of those who want to make sure that they're building it, right? It always is build, buy, or something along the lines of merger. And I think we're going to see a good bit of that in the next year. We already have. That's just where my mind goes when you talk about the new entrants. Yes, definitely to new entrants, but I think also some of those entrants that we already have in the space that have always proven to be pretty innovative. Maybe they're trying different pilots, maybe they're trying different things right now, but I think we'll be hearing more and more from them in the M&A space for that purpose.
As we look out kind of the year ahead,
Mhm.
There's always events sprinkled throughout the year, right? And then the big ones kind of towards that fall timeframe. But we have beginning of the year, like Fintech Meetup, and then later in the year, kind of the two big ones, right? Fintech Meetup and Money 2020. Which events are on your radar for this year that I mean, either you personally or you'll have people from your team going to? Why is that? What do you think we can expect from these events this year?
Yeah, well, you named the first one that I guess officially kicks off our big travel route, if you will, the old trip to Vegas. Tech Meetup will definitely have a presence from a number of folks on our team, and we work with a lot of clients who are there, so helping to tell that story, working with the journalists, et cetera. And then all the way through to Money 2020. We actually a lot of our clients lean on us for our advice, like I said, advisors, our advice on what rooms they should be in when it comes to conferences, both from the smallest ones that, you may never know that are so niche and nuanced to that space to the bigger ones like the FinTech Meetup and the Money 2020. So we actually developed a platform where you can research events and who's going to be present at them, sponsorship levels, and things like that. And we use that internally for our team to be able to research where are your competitors, what does that spend look like, so that people can try to make a little bit more sense around the dollar spend and the value you're getting out of it. It's something that we've always thought was interesting. We've had it for a few years, but that's a way that we analyze some of that data too. And we put out blog posts about once a quarter, if not every 6 months, on here are the events that we're looking at. Here's the broader landscape. And then here's the ones that Caliber will be attending to. The goal of that is to really make sure that all of our network, right, from current clients to alumni to everyone else, understands where we will be, but also so that they can have a bit of a guide. There's so many events out there, which is lovely because I remember not that long ago in pandemic days when everyone was questioning what is this going to look like. It does really feel like things are back, which is refreshing. That in-person time is so critical, and everyone suffers from Zoom fatigue, no matter how many times you're on Zoom. So it's nice to get those moments to connect in person. We are looking forward to this year spending more time with real small groups of folks so that we can have those intentional curated conversations around the points that matter to them. So we'll have the fin and juice parties like we talked about before, but also more moments to bring together, whether it's CMOs across the table from different fintechs that we work with or the CEO layer, making sure that they can talk about what problems they're solving, kind of share learnings, and also just get to know each other in the ecosystem. We happen to be fortunate and grateful that we work with a number of clients who are partners of each other too. So just connecting folks and making sure that they're in the right rooms is the value that we think we bring and that we take pretty seriously.
And have you tried to do any like fin and juice outside of events as well, or like as like little standalone meetups as well, or has it only been attached to these larger events?
Gosh, if I go back to all 15 years of our existence, I'm sure the answer is yes. In recent years, it has been an intentional way to take a group that we know we want to get together and have them when they have a million other things on their calendar. We have done moments in time where it's not at an event, but the truth is a number of our clients are all across the US. So even if you were to put a pin in a map, it's not necessarily going to map out the number of people that you want there. So we do them when we need to, and they don't always have the Fin and Juice branding either. That's kind of like a fun little clip that we've realized has caught on pretty fast.
I like it. It's great branding. It immediately the first time I heard of it, it stood out immediately. So I really liked it.
Sometimes it's unfortunate to know when it ages you because we do have some folks who don't quite get the allusion to the song itself. So we go down that journey when we need to as well, when it's just a drink, but there's also a song behind it.
I love it. Grace, as we start to wrap up here, we usually sub 20-minute episodes. What we already talked a little bit about what you're excited about, but what's something maybe that people aren't talking about enough in fintech right now that you think deserves to get a little bit more recognition? Now, this could be even from one of your clients. You can use this as a plug, that's fine. But what should people be talking more about as it relates to where fintech is heading and maybe what's on the 2026?
I think often the headlines that grab people's attention are more around funding amounts, right? The bigger, the better. The B versus the M, billion versus the million. What does that look like, right? Unicorn versus not unicorn. And that's important news, and we support a number of those. But I think what's sometimes lacking the equivalent attention, I will say, is what's going on underneath to protect consumers, to protect businesses. A lot of that is what many would classify as professional services. So that financial crime fighting, really looking at where is financial crime occurring and how do we address it, right? Bringing together communities that can help to solve those problems so that we as everyday consumers, businesses, what have you, are facing a world that's a little bit safer. We work with a number of clients in that space, whether it's from digital identity to financial crime specifically, how they address financial crime and bring communities together for training and things. I think that's an area that somewhat understandably doesn't get as much of the big headlines as a billion-dollar acquisition or something like that. I think we'll hear more and more from that space. It is an area that definitely gets attention when a moment in time happens where we all kind of look in the mirror and realize, ooh, that's out there. I anticipate that we'll continue to see that as part of the narrative. But if you were to ask me on the spot what area doesn't get quite enough attention, it's probably that importance of the underlying infrastructure, safety, security measures that are happening across traditional financial services and fintech.
Last question is just kind of a fun thing. This doesn't just have to be one of your clients, it can be anyone, but if there was one person, one leader in fintech that you wish would write a book, who would it be? From where?
There's a lot of books out there. That's a tough one. I think there's some who have written some great ones so far.
It could be an up and comer too. Someone, maybe from one of your clients or from another company that you've seen, you're like, wow,
Sure.
they'll eventually be able to write a nice book.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I actually think that a combined book about the founder journey would be really interesting across a number of different founders that we work with, but also some that we don't work with probably, because I think the ups and downs of a founder experience are very unique, often even from founder to founder. And whether it's a founder who's bootstrapped, right? So that story is a really compelling and interesting story versus a founder who's VC funded and series A, B, C, D. Those journeys are founder journeys, but they're so interestingly different, I think, depending on the problem they're trying to solve. And then there's of course, the founder that has PE backing. And what does that look like? I think a book that combines a lot of those narratives that are very unique, but at the same time, founders would be really interesting. I'm sure one exists out there, but I do think that combining a number of narratives is more compelling in today's landscape than just one person's story. It's interesting that you asked this question because we are often talking, and something that I've kind of had as my aha moment recently is how a few years ago, companies were able to really, if they wanted to, hide or stand behind a brand name. And I'm not saying that you can't do that anymore, but it's not as expected anymore or understood. And nowadays it's more about the person and the people behind the brand. So you see that on LinkedIn, right? You see people posting from their own personal perspective. You see companies posting, but it's more about the people that are posting. You see that in commentary. You used to have all of these statements that were this company said, yes, those still exist. And if you have a large enough brand, you can still do that. But more and more consumers, businesses are saying, I want to hear the actual voice. I want to hear something authentic. Is it that that's because we're in an AI world where everyone can see lots of quotes with M dashes and question, is it AI or is it a real person? I'm not sure. But it's this Wizard of Oz concept where you used to be able to hide behind the wizard, but now it's really important that you come out as a founder, as a C suite, as whatever your role is in the company a person, a unique, authentic person that has their own story. So that's why I say if it were to be one person in a book, I don't know the answer. But if I could combine a lot of these stories of clients that we work with that are founders, I think that would be really interesting because it could tell a lot of different stories in one.
Like it. I like it. Grace,
Cool.
always a
I'll
pleasure.
send you an advanced copy when I put it together.
I want to read it. Grace, it's always a pleasure chatting. Look forward to running into each other at some of these upcoming events. And please keep us up to date on anything happening with your clients. Love always hearing your updates. And I know we have some episodes coming up with, I think, a couple of your clients as well, which I'm excited about. But thanks again. Thanks for all you do in the space. And we'll stay in touch.
Thank you, Jared. Thanks for all you do. We love hearing the stories that you tell.